Hello, my fellow strawmen, and welcome back to the Fields of Hay. Today, I want to look at one of the more popular arguments theists bring up to justify their beliefs, the argument of fine-tuning. This is the second teleological argument I've covered on this channel, so if you want more, go check out my video on the watchmaker argument. The fine-tuning argument, like the watchmaker, argues that there is some property of the universe which is too improbable to be explained by natural mechanisms, and instead must be designed. In this case, that is the life-permitting nature of the universe itself. The fine-tuning argument points to six dimensionless quantities in particular, whose variance by very small margins would seemingly preclude life. Those quantities are the ratio between the electromagnetic and gravitational forces, the nuclear efficiency of hydrogen to helium fusion, the ratios of the mass density of the universe to its critical value, of the dark energy density to the critical energy density of the universe, and of the gravitational binding energy of galaxies to their mass energy, and finally the number of dimensions. For example, if you take gravity and make it ever so slightly stronger compared to dark energy, the universe's expansion is halted too early for planets to form and life can't exist, much less develop to a point of sentience. Or if the strength of the electric constant were changed, then organic chemistry would fall to pieces and carbon-based life couldn't form. Out of all the possible ways a universe could form, with all the possible combinations of physical constants, it is exceptionally unlikely that it would be life-supporting. By random chance alone, we would not expect a life-supporting universe to exist, and so some designer must have been responsible for carefully selecting the constants to make ours life-permitting. Some theists will bring up more than just these six constants and include things like the distance between the Earth and the Sun, or the existence of a gas giant in the outer system. However, these belong more in a discussion about how rare life is within the universe. The fine-tuning argument isn't about any particular planet, it's about whether the universe itself is theoretically capable of supporting life. I think that some proponents of the fine-tuning argument would even grant the premise that under the right set of conditions, life is all but guaranteed somewhere in the vastness of the universe. The argument is about the likelihood of the universe having that correct set in the first place. The first and somewhat minor issue I have is this. The expected number of life-bearing universes would be calculated as the probability that a universe can bear life times the number of universes which exist. The fine-tuning argument assumes that only our universe exists, and so the expected number of life-bearing universes would be the same as the probability. However, I have no idea how to test how many universes exist, and so it seems a leap to make any conclusion at all. In fact, how do we know there aren't infinite universes? If the probability that a universe could support life is anything other than zero, an infinite number of universes would overwhelm the odds and lead to an infinite number of life-bearing universes. Even a literally infinitesimal probability could produce at least one universe with the right conditions. However, even though I don't think there is evidence to support the idea that only our universe exists, I'll grant the speculation on the grounds that there is equally little evidence showing other universes to exist. For the purposes of this discussion, let's assume that our universe is the only in existence. Moving forward then, we would need to calculate the probability that each of the constants is in the life-allowing range. Then we can multiply them all together to get the overall probability that the universe is life-permitting. Here we run into a much bigger problem. We have no way of knowing these probabilities. We would either need to approximate the probability experimentally by probing other universes and finding out what values their constants take on, or we could develop and verify a theoretical framework for how constants are chosen when a universe comes into existence. The verification step has a similar issue to the first option. We would need to watch other universes come into existence, or at least probe their values to compare with our models. This necessity of checking other universes is certainly impossible with our current technology, and probably impossible altogether. In fact, given that we only know of one universe and it is life-supporting, the best estimate we currently have is 100%. To be fair, that isn't really a point in my favor, as the estimate also has 100% error bars attached to it. Nonetheless, theists will find numbers to quote. For example, I've heard 1 in 10 to the 60 thrown out as the probability that gravity takes on an allowable value. But this is simply bad math. It is derived from the idea that if you vary the value of g by 1 part in 10 to the 60, it falls outside the life-permitting range. Even granting that this value is correct, it is simply a conflation of terms to say that the probability of falling within the range is the same thing as the width of the range itself, and I can demonstrate it by reducing the statement to absurdity. Imagine for a moment if life was a much easier thing to produce. If a universe could exist with twice our gravity constant and contain life, then the width of the range would be 100%. You could vary gravity by 100% of our value and still get life. So by the proposed logic, the chances of a universe containing life would be 100%. This is weird, because if 100% of all universes contain life, and the width of the life-permitting range is plus or minus 100% of our own, that would preclude the existence of any universes with gravity outside that range. In other words, the likelihood of life developing in various universes places a restriction on which values of the physical constants are metaphysically allowed. Taking it even further, if a universe with 3 times our gravity could support life, then the range would extend to 200% of our value, and the probability that the universe contained life would correspondingly be 200%. This is even more blatantly absurd, so let's take stock of what just happened. The range of life-permitting values has no theoretical cap. As a percentage difference to the current value, it could go all the way up to infinity. On the other hand, the probability that a universe would have constants that permit life is, like all probabilities, definitionally between 0 and 100%. They may both be written as percentages, but probability and percent change are not the same thing. I'll also give an analogy to help clarify. If you were shooting at a target a meter wide, what do you think the probability is that you could hit it? If you answer that there isn't enough information, that's correct. It might help to know how far the target is and whether you're using a shotgun, a rifle, or a laser. Point being, the size of the target isn't the only thing that matters. In the same way, the narrowness of the life-permitting range for each constant isn't the only thing that matters to the fine-tuning argument. It also requires knowledge of A, the probability distribution for each constant to take on any particular value, and B, how many universes exist, analogous to knowing the accuracy of the gun and how many shots were fired. We simply don't know either of these, and until we do, we cannot make the calculation necessary to make this argument valid. Since it's possible that the calculation could give a value that's not close to 0, there is no issue that needs to be solved. For those of you who still aren't convinced, consider one final point. Even if the value does come out close to 0, I still reject the conclusion that our universe must have been designed, because the designer should run into the same fine-tuning issue. How finely tuned does a mind need to be in order to want to create us, and not implement any other plan it could have conceived for creation? How many minds came into being? I have equally little ability to produce a calculation for this, but comparatively, a fully functional mind seems so much more complex than a handful of constants that I'd have to conclude it is less likely. Concluding design appears to just compound the problem, so even if these calculations are performed, I would still say that the best explanation is sheer dumb luck. So with that, the fine-tuning argument gets thrown on my debunked pile. Because of the necessity of experimenting on other universes, I don't think there's any hope that it can be fixed. But as always, if you disagree, I look forward to hearing your opinions why. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and of course, go read a fucking book.